Today we need to talk about Will Smith's performance at the Oscars. And no, I'm not talking about him crying like a baby during his acceptance speech. We have to talk about Will Smith sucker slapping Chris Rock when Chris Rock made a joke about his wife and Will Smith got big mad. But before we get into that, we have a wonderful new sponsor today that I definitely recommend you check out. And remember, supporting the sponsors does help support the channel. I'm sure you guys have heard stories about people earning tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars investing in cryptocurrency. Believe me, I know you heard, because crypto people can't shut up about it. But did you know there's actually a way for you to earn all this investing in crypto and avoid paying capital gains tax? If you open up a crypto Roth IRA with My Digital Money, you can watch your gains grow over time and take them out upon retirement tax-free. And luckily for you guys out there, not only does this company have a great product, but they have great US-based customer service. On top of that, if you open up a crypto Roth IRA with My Digital Money, they will give you $50 if you invest $1,000 in the Roth IRA. That's a pretty damn good deal. That is mydigitalmoney.com. Again, mydigitalmoney.com. So the Oscars happened this year, and this should be unsurprising to you people out there, because I don't know if you know this, I don't know if I'm breaking news right now, but the Oscars tend to happen every single year. In fact, I believe it's been going for 94 years straight. And with the Oscars comes the wokeness.
This year, the Academy hired 3 women to host because it's cheaper than hiring one man.
But I'm still excited to be hosting, representing Black women who are standing proud.
Yes, and living out loud. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And I?
And representing unbearable white women who call the cops when you get a little too loud.
This year we saw a frightening display of how toxic masculinity turns into cruelty towards women and children.
Damn that Mitch McConnell.
Well, we're going to have a great night tonight, and for you people in Florida, we're going to have a gay night.
Because that's what America needs right now. And actually, that's what America needs all the time, because with social media and celebrity culture, we get lectured on bills that these celebrities didn't even bother to read, despite the fact that they're referencing them, because they're basically left-wing propaganda machines. And when you go to these award shows, these things that are supposed to bring everybody in this country together, because it's all the movies that we allegedly watch throughout the year, and the people who made them being rewarded for their movies, they decide to lecture half the country, call you hicks, call you rubes, and make uninformed announcements and pronouncements and protests, like saying that Florida's law somehow is an anti-gay law, or it makes people not be able to say gay in Florida schools because that's what the media told you. Now that is standard fare for the Oscars. It's also standard fare for the Grammys. It's also standard fare for every single award show. And this is one of the reasons why the Oscars ratings are going down, because the American people are not looking to be lectured by celebrities of all people, some of the most immoral people in their personal lives and in their professional lives, by the way. Remember, all of these people knew about Harvey Weinstein, and a bunch of them know about the next Harvey Weinstein, about morality and about politics, especially when they're so disconnected and they don't understand what they're even talking about. This is why Americans watch sports and why Americans are starting to reject that, even though that's a much slower pace. Because we don't go to movies, we don't go to sporting events to be lectured on left-wing politics. We don't go to these places to be called rubes. We don't want to hear about how Orange Man is bad or how Florida Governor Man is bad. If we wanted to hear that, we could turn on any other thing and we would get that messaging because of the way that the left dominates the culture.
You know who's got the hardest job tonight? Javier Bardem and his wife are both nominated. Now, if she loses, he can't win. He is praying that Will Smith wins. Like, please, Lord. Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right? That was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Richard. Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
With that in mind, when I first heard that Will Smith of all people, slapped Chris Rock across the face on stage on live television at the Oscars, I immediately thought that this was a stunt. I immediately thought that this was staged. I immediately thought that this was a ploy to get more ratings. And by the way, if this was a ploy, it definitely did work. While we don't want to hear the opinions of celebrities on politics on the stage, we're fine watching them tear each other apart literally based on the fact that they're oversensitive about jokes. Now, I've actually seen a fair amount of debate on the internet.com about what side people should be on in this instance. A lot of people saying, look, Will Smith is defending his wife. And honestly, if you're a tradcon, you would be happy to have a man defend your wife like that when they were insulted by an evil man, especially since Will Smith's wife, what the joke was in reference to, has that autoimmune disease that Ayanna Pressley has that basically causes her immune system to attack her hair follicles, which is one of the reasons why she ends up shaving her head, because she's losing most of it anyway. Obviously, for a woman, if we set all the celebrity stuff aside, if we set everything related to Jada Pinkett Smith aside, on a human level, you feel bad for her. However, Chris Rock is a professional comedian. Jada Pinkett Smith has talked about how she can only laugh at the situation before, and even if you didn't like a particular joke, I'm sorry, but in my opinion, which is in fact, you are not allowed to assault people for saying things that you don't like.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth!
Wow, dude.
Yes.
It was a G.I. Jane joke.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth!
I'm going to, okay? Okay. That was a greatest night in the history of television.
So because this story involves Will Smith being oversensitive, having a total meltdown, and physically attacking somebody on national television for telling a joke, but also involves Will Smith defending his wife, I'm happy to say that this is one of the many issues in the United States of America, or one of the few issues in the United States of America, that doesn't exactly split along left-right lines. This issue has people on both sides. A lot of trad people are like, Will Smith is defending his wife, Will Smith is the trad husband that everybody wants, which of course was eventually later undercut when Cuck started trending, because apparently Will and Jada have an open relationship and they've talked about it publicly, which kind of throws the trad thing out the window and also makes it a little bit funny because Will Smith is fine if you sleep with his wife, but if you make a joke about her, he's gonna come at you. Will Smith is gonna sucker punch you, or sucker slap you. Now, I'm gonna set aside the personal relationship between Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith, even though people might think that that's a good contradiction or a good hypocrisy point. That is an agreement between the two. Whether or not you think that actually constitutes a marriage, an open marriage, I actually don't believe it does, or not, that's on you. But that is something that they had previously agreed to. This is something that theoretically he did not agree to, even though apparently this joke was told the night before, and like in this video, Will Smith laughed the night before and didn't seem to have a problem with it. It was only when Jada Pinkett Smith started making that face that Will Smith had to act out for her approval. And honestly, we all know that Jada Pinkett Smith is the huge problem. Jada Pinkett Smith is one of those people who pushed that whole Oscars is so white thing. Part of the reason why she pushed that was because she wanted Will Smith nominated for an Oscar. By the way, Will Smith won an Oscar this night after assaulting somebody, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But of the two, she's definitely the woker, more insufferable version of the pairing, and most people tend to find Will Smith to be charismatic. In fact, I have to call myself out, because when I was making fun of the series Bel-Air, one of the things that I was laughing at was how angry teenage Will Smith was portrayed in the show, how dramatic it was. And I said, Will Smith is a guy that we know for his lighthearted personality, for the smile that he always has on his face. But Will Smith in this series, which is supposed to be a more realistic version of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, if it actually happened, even though it doesn't need to be a reboot of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air to tell a story like that, is always quick to anger, and he just assaults people for insulting him. So I think Will Smith actually took inspiration from the portrayal of Will Smith, which obviously Jada Pinkett Smith has a hand in, because that show is woke as hell.
Oh, wow.
I got in one little fight and my mom got scared.
But fundamentally, Will Smith is in the wrong here, and all those posts about how, oh, you would love it if your man defended you, Will Smith was defending his wife, that's what a real man does, yada yada yada, are missing one key component, and that, of course, is context. If somebody insults your wife in a different setting, and you react in this way, that actually might be justified. But if it's a professional comedian, you heard the joke the day before, it's at an event that's not about you, but it's also in the event that you get roasted by by the comedian, and by the way, it was a very soft roast if anything, then you can't react in this violent manner. And if Will Smith was not a black dude, if Will Smith was a white person that walked up and assaulted Chris Rock, nobody would be okay with it at all. It would not be kosher in any way, shape, or form. But since Will Smith is Will Smith, since Jada Pinkett Smith is the wokest person in Hollywood, basically, she's the one who smeared the Oscars as racist before showing up there for her husband to get an award, then all of a sudden it's questionable when, again, it should not be at all questionable. Also, a big pet peeve of mine is sucker punching, or in this instance, a sucker slap, because it's one of the most cowardly and weak things that you could possibly do to not let somebody know when the fight started. You just start fighting and then they have to deal with it. Can you imagine if Will Smith would have got a cleaner hit on Chris Rock and would have KO'd him right there? If you notice, Chris Rock thinks that Will Smith is still in on the bit because he was looking in that direction when he told the joke, and Will Smith was laughing at that point. This is one of the reasons why Chris Rock is leaning towards Will Smith with a big smile on his face. So he's totally not prepared for that punch, and it doesn't matter how skilled of a fighter you are. And by the way, Chris Rock is a comedian, definitely not a fighter. Anybody can get knocked out in a sucker punch. Would that have been acceptable? Would that have been protecting the honor of his wife from the evil joke that the comedian who always tells jokes told on the stage? By the way, Ricky Gervais has savaged these people way more than this one joke from Chris Rock, so it's absurd in every way how overly sensitive Will Smith and his wife were being. Now, on top of the sneak attack element that makes Will Smith 100% in the wrong in this scenario, there's also the element that Chris Rock is presenting an award at this time on behalf of the Academy. So he is not representing himself, he is in fact representing the Academy. So he can't exactly punch Will Smith back and get into a brawl. Will Smith is showing up to get himself an award, but Chris Rock is presenting a different award, and he really can't just get into a knockdown dragout with Will Smith on national television, no matter how many of us would want to actually see that. So not only is Will Smith getting way too angry over a joke, which is ridiculous, not only did he sneak attack Chris Rock, which is ridiculous, but he also did this while Chris Rock was not in a position to fight back if his instinct were to fight back. Then he freaked out while he was sitting down. It was absurd in every way. And then when he goes up for his speech, he starts crying about how, oh, the devil gets on his shoulder, and how, oh, he's just protecting his family. He learned that from King Richard, blah, 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 blah. Now, with that being said, I saw a lot of people posting on the internet.com about how Will Smith should lose his Oscar based on the way that he behaved during the ceremony. And I think that's honestly ridiculous. First and foremost, people put way too much weight on the Oscars. It's just an industry award show, people. It's a bunch of actors that get together to congratulate themselves about how awesome they are and lecture the American people from their high off positions where they don't even understand the issues they're lecturing them about. So the idea that Will Smith violated some standard and therefore should get his Oscar revoked is absurd. Also, his Oscar is not for him assaulting Chris Rock, it's for his performance in King Richard. What he did at the actual ceremony does not undercut his performance. I'm totally against people who commit actual crimes losing their awards after the fact when the awards are for their work, and you can judge their work separately from the things that they do at the ceremony or from the things that they do in their personal life. There is a line at some point, but think about it. O.J. Simpson didn't lose his rushing records when he murdered 2 people. That's just not how it works. You can respect the work, and you could also separate that from the individual, and Will Smith is nowhere near on the same scale as O.J. Simpson. On top of that, I actually saw the movie King Richard, the movie that Will Smith won the Oscar for. I watched it because I had heard that the woke mob was angry at this movie because King Richard is actually the father of Venus and Serena Williams, and the woke mob were mad that they made a movie about how the father got them to the point where they could play tennis on the professional level. And they were like, wow, this is horrible. You're taking all the credit away from black women and giving it to the father. What's wrong with you? You're terrible people, yada, yada, yada. But the thing is that movie was so moving to the Williams family that when they were given access to a private screening of the movie once it was completed, they actually came on as producers. They saw the movie as honoring their father while he was still living. And Richard Williams is an insane person. What he did to get the Williams sisters where they are today is insane, and it is a story that was worth telling. I actually did enjoy the movie. I don't know if Will Smith won Best Actor or should have won Best Actor or anything like that, but then again, I don't think I watched any of the other movies where any of the other people were nominated, so who cares? Overall, that's the story, and I could close out the video right here and just leave it where it is. But here's the thing, even though you might think the story's over, truth be told, it's not over, because this was the first Oscars ever ran by black people specifically, and the Oscars was very proud of that. And I have to say, a lot of people in my camp on the internet.com were quite skeptical of the idea that having black people produce the Oscars would somehow make the Oscars more watchable. And I just have to acknowledge that I was 100% wrong in that sentiment. Will Smith and Chris Rock, this happening, started trending on Twitter. It's a bunch of YouTube video topics right now. Everybody's into it. And finally, and I mean finally, after years of declines in ratings, people are interested in the Oscars. And black people said that they could do this. I didn't believe them, but guess what? The black produced Oscars was better than any other Oscars I've seen in recent history. So credit where credit is due. I mean, they picked Amy Schumer as one of the hosts of this thing, and it seems like this was one of the best Oscars in recent history. Celebrities fighting, I'm on board for it. Even if I don't think Will Smith acted in a moral way, let's watch these Hollywood rich people who definitely probably can't fight because they're a bunch of Hollywood rich people slap each other across the face during the course of documentary film award presentations. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like this video, you can show me by leaving a like. You can subscribe for more content. You can follow me on all my social medias. You can support me via the support links in the description box. This has been me talking about Will Smith fighting Chris Rock. Till next time.